Today, we are very happy to welcome Martine Saint-Germain and Juliane Mongrain from UQAM that speak to a very interesting and substantial subject, the pedagogical relationship between the teaching staff and their students. I want to first introduce Martine Saint-Germain, that I've known for many years now. She has a PhD in education. Her thesis, called A Pedagogical Relationship of Collaboration in College, talks about relationship strategies that are used by the teaching staff to favorize the development of autonomous learning and engagement in the students. The Outaouais Cégep. She is a guidance counselor and prof at UQAM. Martine is working actively at professional development of the teaching staff. She loves research, action-based research, and cooperation-based approaches. Martine favorizes sharing expertise and co-construction of skills, professional skills by the teaching staff and at the college level and professional level as well, technical level as well. Josiane is a chargée de cours at the bachelor's at UQAM. She's a teacher in early childhood education at Lionel Groux College. Joliane is passionate about teaching and the pedagogical relationship and cooperative relationship. Her memoir for her master's is about the positive relationship in technical training in college. In addition, she had the opportunity to work at a project around managing relationships for the Observatory of Professional Training Education in Quebec. Juliette believes in the importance of the positive pedagogical relationship in teaching, and she's interested in the best practices that feed into that. She is curious, passionate. It's a great pleasure for Juliane to speak about this subject. Have a great webinar, everybody. I will now hand over the microphone to our speakers for today. Thank you, Nicole. What a wonderful presentation. I think, Martine, it will avoid us having to introduce ourselves. So I will now share my screen for our presentation today. Martine, can you see? Is it working? Yes. Hello, everybody. Thank you for being with us. We won't need to introduce ourselves. Thank you, Nicole. So today, that's what we want to do is talk about different strategies for building relationships that come from research and our practices as well, our observations and analysis in our lives. So we're talking about relationship structures and partnership building, how to build partnerships in the classroom to share roles and responsibilities with the students. And then we will talk about different strategies, alternating strategies in communication style, and then how to self-regulate as a teacher to be able to manage these relationships and these positive relationships that foster communication and collaboration. So as Nicole said, we may ask you to share some of your practices with us, so don't be shy. We will be able to do that in an informal way. So I'm going to introduce Yves Saint-Arnaud, who is our mentor in research since the last 20 years. I've done a lot of research. I consulted with him. I studied his writings at length on professional interactions. So he's very interested in interactions at the professional level in the working world. So for those who work with humans, teachers, for example, or doctors, police officers, judges, all those who must interact with humans on a daily basis for their profession, he has a vision, Yves Saint-Arnaud, a humanistic vision and contextual vision of relationships. Contextual meaning that this is specifically in the labor market. So for him, in human relationships, each situation is unique. Each situation, in terms of the relationship, for example, what we're doing today, this morning, we will do something unique. Every situation is different. So it's important for the teacher to recognize the complexity of the real world and what's going on in front of them in the classroom. So the idea of being aware of these complexities is to avoid coming in with an approach that is more mechanized around classroom intervention, to always have the same approach, whereas the humans that are before us are never exactly the same. Groups go through different things at different times. People are all different. How to adapt to each different group and how to communicate effectively. Our role as a teacher is all around communication. So the teacher must be flexible, must understand all these different situations, and have a reflective analysis, because all situations contain some uncertainty. Because the people involved, yes, there's a number. Is it a big group, a small group? What are their values? Where are they at when they come into the classroom? And what is their headspace? How do they feel physically? Are they in a professional space, a cultural, institutional space? So the time of the interaction, the timing is the course in the morning, the evening, weekend, is the emotional state of the students a factor. It's important to consider all these things. So when we look at all these things, knowing all these things, and how the teacher can be attentive to what's happening in the classroom, that's what we want to talk about today. Some strategies. We don't have a lot of time, but we're going to give you a taste of big a pot of strategies, so how the teacher can be attentive to what's happening at any moment with regards to relationships, and how the person can build relationships with their students, and how to bring the students to work together, to work as a team, or develop their skills in that regard. Thank you, Martine, for the wonderful introduction. Monsieur Saint-Arnaud inspired us in our research. I was inspired by Martine also in her writings when I had to do my master's. And what we discovered, what really motivated me to question the myself around this, and the studies that I read that demonstrated that there was an impact, an influence, a positive influence on the motivation of students, on the engagement level, on the pleasure in learning for students when there's a positive pedagogical relationship that is there, but also an influence on the personnel, on the teaching staff, on their well-being and their vitality at work. So, a bit more specifically, the benefits that come out of building a positive pedagogical relationship is that it favorizes engagement and perseverance in studying, in education. That's what we are looking for. We want students at the college level that are engaged, that are there, and the relationship with the teaching staff is a key element. The well-being of the student body as well, their participation in the classroom, and autonomy in learning as well as in self-study at home. As we were saying earlier, their involvement and motivation would also increase if the pedagogical relationship, the cooperative relationship, is present. We also say that this relationship decreases the risk of dropouts and the deviant relationships. So I don't know about you, but that's what convinced me of the importance of continuing research in this area, and to see how do we implement this positive pedagogical relationship. So all this interaction in the classroom is the teacher who is the captain of the ship. So this interaction is yet to be built. The responsibility of the interaction of the relationship is between the hands of the teacher. So how do they build it? That's what we will look at. And before getting into the strategies we want to share with you today, we thought it would be relevant to talk about these structures, the relationship structures, and try to identify which of these structures you would use most often in your practice. The relationship structures allow us to understand the dynamics that happen between the teacher and the students, depending on the attitudes, the intention, and the behavior of each person. So, three relationship structures: the pressure structure, the service structure, and the cooperative structure. So, I will begin with the pressure based structure. So, what is this? It's a means of interaction where the interaction is established by the teacher. We could say that it's the teacher who holds the power in a group where the structure is a pressure based structure. The teacher will solicit the students, tell them what to do, ask them to intervene, to participate. That will direct the traffic in the classroom, that will decide of how things happen, carry on. So it's a teacher that is a bit more in a directive kind of mode. And what we notice is we're in a pressure based structure. So we will not consider very much the skills of the students. It's a mode, a mechanism where it's very top down, that Martin would call it that, and where it's really the teacher that holds the power and the decision making. It's more unilateral as far as relationships go. That's the relationship structure called the pressure structure. A teacher that will impose their vision, the rules, how things work in class, the expectations. These are decisions made by the teacher. So I'm painting this as a little bit negative, this kind of pressure based structure, but most teachers will find themselves in this kind of relationship structure, sometimes pressure, sometimes service, sometimes cooperation. But while am talking about this, maybe you will identify with one of these structures more, and you may want to go more towards the communication structure that is about cooperation, the relationship structure about cooperation. Sometimes it's necessary, useful to be in a pressure kind of situation. So don't feel bad if that is the structure you are using or identify with. Some examples with regards to the pressure based structure: we are in the classroom, we're teaching, and we give our lesson plan, everything is there. Then we see in observing our group that, oops, there are conflicts that are not well understood. There are some things that may not be well understood before we continue. The teacher would not consider those because they would be preoccupied by their course planning and by the fact that they have to go through all the content, for example. So they don't consider what they're observing, and they continue their class as usual. So we would consider in this example that we are in a relation-based structure that is relationship structure that is pressure-based, because we don't consider the needs of the students directly. So we can observe the consequences long-term for somebody who would be constantly in a pressure structure. There would be some resistance that could develop, a lack of motivation, less engagement, more stress from the students when you are in this kind of structure constantly. Nicole, please interrupt me if there are questions or anything that people have. So there were some reactions from Frank. Well, I am in a pressure kind of structure in the classroom. Yes, that's totally normal. Thank you, Martin. Yes, because I'm sharing my screen, I don't see everything, so I will ask you from time to time. But it's completely normal to recognize that you are in this kind of structure, this pressure based structure. It's one that is conventional, that most people use more so than others. The next one is the service structure. So now we're going to the opposite direction. We're in a structure where the objective is established by the students. The students are the ones who demand service from their teacher. They're the ones who ask. The teacher is solicited by the students that will determine what their objectives should be, and the students in this context expect the teacher to adapt and to act with regards to their needs. So you're in a structure that is different than what I was presenting earlier. The student asks the teacher, and then the teacher answers. So you can see the posture of the teacher that is a bit more in a service mode. So that is an example we can give. A teacher that will constantly modify the rules of an activity or something to accommodate the students. We don't want people to be uncomfortable. So every time the students ask for something, you say yes, you adjust, you adapt. So you're in a relationship structure that we call a service structure, where you are constantly trying to meet the needs, to answer the accommodation, give accommodations, and maybe have a little bit less power as a teacher. The consequences of this relationship structure is the lack of tent poles of indicators. So we're trying to always meet the needs of the students, and it becomes a bit difficult, sometimes confusing, because there's no guiding line, there's no guiding principles. They always change. So there's a reduction of the authority of the teacher. There's a lack of responsibility also in on the student's part. So do we have any reactions? People that have mentioned that they are in this kind of a structure? Yes, there's somebody who says that they recognize that one of these students that are in a service structure, the teachers must adjust to this person. It's not always easy. No, it's not always easy, and it's the teacher that accepts to position themselves this way in responding to these demands. It's not easy to know where we fit in this kind of a situation. So the third structure, the relationship, is the cooperation one. You will understand that it's halfway between the pressure structure and the service structure, because the goal is established by both parties. The teacher as well as the student is solicited. They influence each other. There's a recognition of the skills and roles and responsibilities of each. There's a sharing of power and responsibilities. In the cooperative kind of structure, everybody takes their place, but only their place and not more. Martin Saint Germain uses that phrase. Take your place, but only take your place. That's what happens in this kind of structure. When you say take your place, take your whole space, but only yours. So that's when in interaction the teacher has something to say or contribute. The person doesn't want to take too much space, so they would let, and for us, leaving space to the students. So it's a long-winded effort. The students and teachers work together. They recognize the competencies and skills of the other side, even though the roles are different. I find that to be important to mention. They're not the same roles that can be shared between students and teachers. There are roles that belong to us as teachers, obviously. So we will adopt as teachers a posture of Sherpa, guide, mediator. The students on their end will be active learners, co-responsible for their training. They must be involved. They have a role to play in their education. An example is a teacher that proposes a clear framework. That's part of our role, to have a clear structure framework that is clear for everybody, but we remain open to adjustments. One example that I like to give is the example of a lesson plan with pedagogical activities, learning activities that are proposed to the students during the class. And this activity, how is it read? How is it done? Is it individually? Is it in groups of two as a team, interactively, or more in a reflective mode? That's where the students could have their word to say, have their opinion. We want to work together today. We would want to maybe do it in a quiet way, each on our own. So the teachers could be open to that and may adjust their parameters of the activity depending on what the group is expressing. So the possible consequences, we can see an engagement that is more present, an increased engagement, a feeling of skill and competency when you see the trust of the teacher. That increases our confidence as well, positive environment, and develop critical thinking. So that is what I want to present concerning the three relationship structures: pressure, service, and finally the structure engaged with communication. In closing, with regards to structures, it's important to know that from the beginning, when we arrive in a group, we're not automatically in a cooperative structure. It's not something done by magic. It takes work to get to the cooperative structure because it will be service or pressure naturally. Then you have to act and enact strategies to develop with our group a relationship structure based in cooperation. We're going to present a few of these strategies this morning. Martin, do you want to tell us? It says on the PowerPoint, I think you really want to share with us what was your relationship structure with your classroom when you began your career? How did things eventuate? Well, I was in a pressure based relationship structure, as many of you have written in the chat. I was in a pressure based structure and I was concentrating on my content. I was thinking a lot about my content and I forgot that I had humans in front of me. So I was more in a pressure kind of situation with my own structure, and I would ask questions and propose some rules. And when we see that it creates resistance and creates problems, we look to other solutions. Julianne? Well, it's very interesting what you're saying. I was the opposite. I was in a service relationship structure when I began teaching because I wanted it to be liked. I wanted to be liked by the students. I wanted things to go well. I wanted to have a good relationship in emptying my head in the beginning. And it was around the service structure. I would try to meet their needs. And sometimes it becomes unstructured, a little bit disorganized for students who don't have any frame of reference anymore. It takes a lot of energy and time to be in a service structure. I tried to replace that with the cooperative structure as well. I don't know if some want to share their practice. If they want to, they can open their microphone, raise your hand, and we will try and give you some speaking time. So somebody says in the chat, I'm like Julian, but I work hard to come back to cooperation. So I see parallels with the theories of attachment. Very interesting. Yes, it's true. Another person says, after my brief experience in teaching, depending on the personality of the group, it is a pressure-based structure, which was very demanding, and others preferred the cooperative structure, and I tried that. It was much more enriching. Very interesting. Thank you for the shares. Somebody has any questions? Somebody has a question. Can you alternate between pressure and service and then create ambivalence in the students? In fact, if of course, it's not black or white like that, pressure or service. If the person alternates, they may be transforming their relationship into a cooperative structure. Yes, because in certain contexts, the teachers need us to be more in a pressure kind of structure, and it's very clear that there's no ambiguity in certain situations. And in other situations, the service based structure is better suited. Sometimes we use both, and we're closer to the cooperation based structure that way. The comment I can give from a teacher before talking about partnership, there's a teacher who taught in business management, and I was in her classroom and I was observing. It's one of my participants in the research, and the students were asking her, oh, we would like to, instead of having master's classes, instead of having that, we could have videos. And maybe about 10 years ago that it happened, but they're asking the HR, it was the HR part, the language part, so she felt a bit uncomfortable. They would ask, and I was a bit shocked by this because they don't have my classes. And finally, she took a step back and started thinking, and she uh, put the relationship, went back in a cooperative relationship, went back towards that, asking the students, would you be ready to do research and finding video on what I just taught, what we just saw in the classroom? And next week, send me some videos and some notes, and we can look at that together. So that's how she changed. The relationship. She got them to respond by contributing research about the videos she was sharing. So they found that very interesting, and her as well. So we see that the structure changed, and they were very receptive, and they saw an opening for a partnership with the students and the teacher, and it went really well. So there's some answers coming in still, but we will continue if you would like to do that. The partnership. Okay. So the first strategy that we use to foster this kind of relationship structure based in cooperation is the strategy of partnership. So, in the beginning of the class, do a uh, uh, we don't do a full classroom before establishing this partnership. I use this in university. I have groups of 60, sometimes smaller groups at the master's level. I use that as well. Even the third at the higher levels with individual meetings, we try to do that, work on content together, work on the subject of the meeting. We're trying to build partnerships. What are we talking about here is to recognize that this strategy is where each one has a role to play to meet our common objectives. So it's in a classroom. We will try to have a relationship with the student and share roles and responsibilities to reach a common goal. So reaching the common goal is often the success of the student. So we're going to talk about that before beginning the semester. But it's also, or the meeting, it's also something we can do mid-trimester, mid-semester when we see that things may be going a little south with our group. But the idea is to have a common objective and a common set of processes as well. If you will allow, I have a question from Pascal because we will come back to the relationship based structure. Is the relationship based structure, can it vary depending on the domain of study? For example, in law and justice or project management, would they be different? Well, I would say that it doesn't really change depending on the content. It's more, the idea is to get into a relationship, build a relationship with our students. If we want them to be responsible for their own learning, independently of what they're studying, the relationship based structure becomes important. If we want to, for example, in law and justice, if the students, we want them to take their responsibilities as students, it's not related to the type of content. It's more the idea of getting into the relationship with the people we work with in the classroom. Was it clear enough? I think so. Okay, so the partnership. How do we put in place this partnership? There are different ways to do it. I like one of the ways I did it. I was a high school teacher in science. I like to have an approach that is, I use the Venn diagram, so I use a kind of structured approach. I ask the students to write automatic writing first. What is their expectation from the teacher? And in the first area, and then the second box, more on the right, what are their expectations towards their colleagues in class? That will be the very important part of establishing, building this partnership, because they will hear when we will do the share. What are the expectations of their colleagues in the classroom? So that will be very important for managing the partnership. Uh, uh, so in the center, there's this gray area, this common area. What are the expectations that are shared between both of you? It can be related to content, with aptitudes, with values. Expectations can be related to all of those. We will look at an example. Maybe also I would add to that in the agreement the partnership agreement, there can be some subtleties depending on the field of study. We were talking about law and justice, for example. Maybe there's some expectations with regards to rigor that are maybe more prevalent. Or in the partnership, there can be some distinctions depending on the situation, in my opinion. What do you mean by I? Please repeat. Yes, no problem. I was saying that the person asking the questions with regards to the domain of area of study, if you look at the relationship structures, whether it be pressure, service, or cooperation, well, the cooperation structure has its place independently of the field of study. What I was saying that in the partnership agreement, there can be subtleties related to this area of study. Some areas of study will require wearing a uniform during the labs. That can be specified here. Exactly. And I'm sorry, before I was saying that the chat was, and at the same time that you were talking, that's what webinars are about, unfortunately, sometimes. But when you say it's a good addition to the answer, the area of study, yes, there can be some specific things we will add into the partnership. For example, you can see the men in this example in mechanical engineering wear the uniform. So for them, it's an obligation. And of course, we could say that it's a pressure tactic, but no, it's not a pressure tactic. It's that the students adhere to that. And it would be a pressure structure if you don't listen to their needs. For example, if they want to be more free in how they move around the classroom, or that's how we see in this example to putting in place a partnership. It's a group where there were some difficulties, conflicts between the students. They were already familiar with each other, but we had invited to come and do an activity to help the group to work together. So we had been invited to do that. I thought I would use a partnership-based structure so that people can exchange and discuss, and things would go well after that. The first step was to write individually the expectations towards the teacher in the Venn diagram, the expectations of the students and the common expectations. They do this individually, then they share in small groups, 2 or 3, and then all together. I like to do it this way so that the students can think and really share their thoughts with others before presenting their opinion to the whole group. So the students come in front of the group. I always invite the students to do this activity on the board and interact with their peers. And they write on the board their expectations. Then we look at all of that more in detail. And you can change slides. And we look at what, for example, if we look on the left column, my expectation of the teacher and what support is available on the theoretical side of things. What do you mean by detailed support or tolerance? What do you mean by tolerance? Give us an example. So that's where we discuss together our way of acting, our modus operandi in the classroom. Then the right column, the part that talks about my expectations towards my colleagues. I expect my colleagues to be motivated, that they communicate, that they show respect. Oh, respect, what does that mean for you? So we bring them to self-expression and to say things, but in an objective way, without being angry, sad. Then we open up and see how things eventuate. This is an activity that is about 40 minutes long, but that's really worthwhile so that each person can see the expectations of everybody. We will work together. So let's work the right way, and let's take the responsibilities of making things work. Because in my expectations of the teacher, this is where I can express myself as a teacher. You're asking me for more time. For example, from the students, I would say, okay, 24, 48 hours more, but don't expect an answer in the same day. But if I negotiated with them for 48 hours, for example, you as a teacher, if it's 5 days, it's up to you to decide what your needs are and how you want to answer the needs of the students. And with regards to the expectations towards the college, that's what I was saying earlier. We discuss all of this beforehand. You can ask questions in the classroom. Is the teacher accept this or that or after during the meeting, or she prefers after the meeting? Well, yes. One thing, Martin, is that often we are asked when we present this the expectations towards the students are for our side. Do we have something to say about that? Can we? The more we do it, the more we observe that the students will themselves. Identify the same expectations that we would identify: participation in classroom, equitable participation in teamwork, respect when the students or my colleagues ask questions, avoid judging others. So most of the time, the students themselves have already identified what I wanted to add. And if it hasn't been done, then I will say, I have another expectation you should add. I come in with a trying to make them responsible for that. So that's something that doesn't always come from the students, but it avoids for us to come in a directive way and say, this is what I expect of you. It's the group that identified that, and that's great for engagement and respecting these classroom rules. And I saw in the chat as well that it's true that the expectations would be different depending on the culture. I saw that UQAM, I say you, tu in French very quickly, and people say, no, we prefer the more formal form, vous, in French. So I had to adapt depending on the student. It was really a need on their part, especially our students are often at the adult age, and sometimes they're yes. There are other examples, Martin. There's about 20 minutes left only. I would tend to not present everything in detail. What do you think? Yes, maybe the video from Rachel, you would present that, introduce that? Okay. So we're going to show that. It's 2-3 minutes. And then we will go to something else. Here we go. There's no sound. We have no sound, Julian. I had clicked on share sound. It doesn't seem to work. Let's start again. Share screen, share the sound. Let's reload the video. Hello, my name is Rachel Fournier. I teach at Collège de l'Algrou in early childhood education, and I was asked to talk about the partnership agreement I established with my students at the winter semester 2025. I had 3 groups of students, and what happened was, the reason why I do it is to all express our expectations very clearly, and then I can refer to that going forward. So here are the 3 trees that were created. The value tree, because we're in teaching pedagogy, and the trees are very different. But in the with the whole group, I asked them what are the values they wanted to reflect in the classroom. So I wrote them here in the center of the image, and what are the expectations that they have amongst themselves? What are the expectations they have towards me, and what are my expectations that I could have towards them? And they answered all of those. So between the students, they had a first semester together, and that allowed them to say, hey, for me, if I want to make adjustments in the classroom from last semester, I would like everyone to participate. I would like to have more engagement in the teamwork aspect, that people respect agreements, that there's rigor, quality work being done. And if there were issues, they can speak openly about it. So everybody together. These are my 3 trees. There was a class with which it was more difficult to respect the agreements of everybody. So I created a spreadsheet that I put in our file because the partnership agreement was signed by the students. I'd given them a little piece of paper to write their needs, to include that they and to signified that they would follow this agreement. The third class, because I saw that it was a bit more difficult, I created a prédit to say, okay, we have to be more specific and intentional. These are the values we agreed on, and what does this all mean? So these are the values. What does respect mean? So I went to the syllabus and got some things from there. So I was very intentional and specific, much more than what the students had defined, because it was a real need in the classroom. Listening, active listening, openness to other ideas, and there's a way and time to express them. Open-mindedness, because sometimes it was raining ideas and comments, so I defined all of that very clearly. So this is what it all looks like, and I hope that it inspires you. I was in Martine's class, and it was very important for me to do this from the outset. I think it creates a safe space to express people's expectations and opinions, and a space we can refer to as needed. Thank you. Yes, Joliane, Martine, Marie Beauchamp, who is asking the following question. What are the interventions we want to use if the agreements are not respected, or difficulties come up? Excellent question. That's where, for example, the teacher that just spoke, I did a prési. We did a presentation and brought back this subject and talked about it again. I think we do knock knock. We ask them if we can revise what we've done together, the partnership we agreed on, and I have some clear observations of what didn't work so well. I see that I don't want to, we don't want to be judgmental, and I see some lackluster effort there. So there's clear observation that I see. For example, the teacher can say that I see that there's a lot of people talking at the same time. I see that there's a lack of punctuality. You come in with clear observations. That's a consultation strategy that we call it that. We are not going to go into all of that today. We don't have time, but that's a consultation strategy that allows us to undo the knots and come back to partnership. We can do that in asking them to be a bit introspective on what's happening and to come back to the right path. So we want to give them the responsibility. We want them to be engaged. They have to participate. They have to tell us how we can come back to partnership. Exactly. So I want to come back to sharing the screen. So some different examples. There are different ways to have a partnership agreement. It can be in a more fun game-based way, or activity-based, or with a Padlet, or when you receive the PowerPoint, you will have access to all these different methods as well. So I'm not going to go through that now. We're starting to get to the end of the presentation. But the second strategy is alternating communication styles. And I will go very quickly on this because most of the time it's a strategy that you already use and we use as teachers without realizing it. So alternating communication styles is a strategy based on using 4 different channels of communication. The 4 channels are building and maintaining relationship, information on content, the facilitation, and receptivity. The idea of alternating is to oscillate between these 4 channels of communication in a frequent way, I would say. So avoid spending too much time in the same communication channel. Yes, maybe you should go to self-regulation. There's the communication channels that help us to better communicate information, to put in place and build partnerships. We don't have time, unfortunately, to get into detail. We have to also, the teacher, with Marie's question earlier, the teacher must regulate themselves. They must be attentive to what's happening before them, to either come back to a partnership or going into a discussion with the students to bring back some equilibrium, some balance. A good indicator of efficiency is how we feel. So how we feel is our gut, is what we feel when there is an exchange. So as soon as things go south, I will feel some tension in my gut, and it reacts much faster than the brain. So you will use color coded answers. Like traffic lights, for example. When I'm green, everything is going well. Everything's going well with the students. There's no irritation. In yellow, there's some irritation happening. I have to right away bring it back to partnership. I don't want to wait to get into the red zone. If I get into the red zone, it's more difficult to have a consultation strategy, and it becomes more onerous. So if you look at, we would want to give an example. We can take 30 seconds here. In fact, what's important with self regulation is we don't all have the same feeling with the same situation. It is possible that in a given situation, I am in the green and Martin is yellow, or vice versa. So it's the important thing is to feel our emotions and act accordingly. So, with the example I'm giving you here, a student is asking to repeat an information that you just gave. So you just said something, and a student asks a question that is in direct relationship with what you just explained. You should wonder, are you in green in this situation? Are you yellow? Or are you feeling red? The ideal situation is to intervene when you are in the yellow zone and not red. When you are in green, things don't bother us and everything is fine. We continue in the same direction. Yellow, I feel a bit uncomfortable. It's bothering me a little bit. Not extremely bothered, but it is cumbersome for me, and it's a great time then to intervene and make adjustments. Well, in the red zone for us is when we feel irritated and bothered by the situation. So just to show you that independently of the situation, we won't all feel the same way, but you have to feel your emotions and respond accordingly. So it depends if it's the first time or second time you're asked to repeat. So that's when you have to act quickly. If you are in the yellow or you feel you're going towards the red, you have to act immediately. Yes, exactly. So always in giving the students let them be responsible, encourage them to take responsibility. Talk the knock knock. We talked about that earlier. So a quick overview. We would have loved to talk a little bit more about the alternating strategies, but if you're interested, you can go to the PowerPoint, which you will receive. It's pretty easy to understand. But these three strategies we presented today, there's the partnership, alternance, and self-regulation. So to allow you to favorize the cooperative relationship and identify in which structures you find yourself most often. Maxine, I know you want to talk about a community of practice. If some want to know more, yes, we have a website. So if you're interested in participating or exchanging with us, we have a website and there's a community of a sharing community. We have a meeting once a month, once every month and a half. The next one is in October, this week of the 6th or the 11th. It's just to you just click on a sharing community and a bit higher, click on that, and we directly get into the community. You can register. You're sent the team link. We discuss one case together. When we have our meetings, they're 1 hour meetings. We talk about only one case. So you register, and then we ask if there's a case you want to share. We discuss together. We choose one, and it's really the group that discusses. We are there just to facilitate the discussion. But the idea is to share your experience on building a good pedagogical relationship or classroom management or conflict management. We can maybe drill down deeper on consultation strategies, how to avoid conflict, how to bring back everything into a cooperative relationship. So on the website, there's there's all our communication, our documents, there are videos, there's a bit of everything. The site is Relation Pédagogique de Coopération. It's a site you can find from UQAM's website. You can have access from there. There's another website called the site of the Observatoire de Formation Professionnelle with Julianne, the Professional Training Observatory. With Julianne, we elaborated booklets with activities and videos. We have a ice-breaking activity where there's 30 ice-breaking activities. There, diversify your methods of training a team. You can do that if you want to do that. You can easily click on all this material, how to put in place a team, and there are different elements within that. There could be posters, videos that you can use. So don't be shy. There's material that you can use. We are there to share and your preoccupations and your practices together. Are there any questions? For now, there are no questions, but I thanked everybody. They were very active in the chat. We have lots of comments, and so we invite you to continue to be active. We have a few minutes left for the presentation. Yes, continue to comment, and you can speak if you wish to do so, knowing that you are recorded. I see a comment that says social work, we use the partnership kind of agreement, and so the students sometimes get tired of doing the same thing over again. So what we do with certain groups, we take the same partnership from one group to another. We can just transpose and reactivate the partnership they have had elsewhere. We can ask them to present one of the plans that was shared and see if we can share it again that way. They become more active, more responsible, more involved, and things are a bit different at that point. And it takes less time. Yes, we don't have to get into great depths. They are used to sharing their preoccupations and their needs. We can do it in 5 minutes maybe. Yes, exactly. If you will allow Martine and Jolene to put the link to the other website that you talked about earlier. Martine, do you want to tell us about that? Yes, the website of the observatory. Yes, we shared it earlier. It's a site where you find different activities for classroom management and relationship management. So there's different themes that we can refer to. So the website, our website, Relation Pédagogique, Pedagogical Relationships, and the website of the Observatory of Relationship Management in Education. Okay, perfect. So there's 4 minutes left that will allow the teachers that are giving a class soon to go have a quick coffee before starting their class. As somebody was writing, it's Marie who wrote this. Thank you for this presentation that allows us to place ourselves at the center of our preoccupations, of our role. The most important thing is the relationship with the students and not the content. So thank you, Martine and Joliane, and I hope to have the pleasure to meet you in person soon. So next week we have a webinar on internships. We invite everybody to participate, of course, and we thank you again. People are very happy with this webinar. So we will see you again soon. And Martine, we will see you again and work together again soon. Thank you, Julianne. Everybody have a great weekend.